What do you guys say to the person that is a leader in a company saying that I rather hire a man because I know his focus is not going to be split on raising kids?
I would tell them to spend more time with their kids. I think the people assume that.
And the manager told me point blank, one of the only reasons I was hired was because I was pretty. And I was like, what?
It's like white privilege, pretty privilege. It's not about what they give to others, it's what the world, society gives to them. So it's not necessarily your fault that you're pretty. So it's literally even babies, when presented with an attractive person versus a less attractive counterpart, will choose a more attractive person. People want to say pretty privilege doesn't exist. Go read a textbook. Go read a science book. Like, it's literally been proven to be real.
Go read.
It definitely exists.
This was a different perspective. I've never heard anyone say this, but it kind of like opened my eyes a bit. She's like, you need to understand that for us, from like people of color, when we get put into position, it almost feels like you get handed like, they almost look at you as like a bit of a charity case, in the sense where, you'll get the job because you tick the race box, but not necessarily because you can get the job done.
None of their wives work. They only do what they love. And all of the men work 12 plus hours a day, including myself. So when you look at it from that point of view, men have been allowed to become lazy because of your work, because of you guys. And who suffers? The family unit, and society therefore suffers. So, hey everyone, we have the amazing team from HireSales, the all-female team, and we're going to be discussing a couple of points on Women's Day and women in the workplace, and just women overall. So I'm going to let the team introduce themselves and just say a quick hey, and go for it.
Hi guys, my name is Nikita. I am 25 and I'm from Johannesburg.
Hi guys, I'm Belinda and originally from Joburg, now in Ballito.
Yeah, from Johannesburg, and I'm 33 years old.
Hey everyone, I'm Shanae Sharp. I'm originally from the Vaal, but I've been living in Joburg pretty much for the last 10 years.
Hi guys, I'm Nina and I'm currently in Cape Town.
So we have a lot of Joburg people here. I didn't realize that. Yeah, so I mean, the one thing I want to bring up just to get your opinion on this, right? Because this is a really fun conversation. It's a serious conversation, but you can still make it fun. So the one person in the world that, I mean, really like the one world leader that surrounds himself with a lot of women is Donald Trump, right? And I'm not to get into politics. It's more about him as a person. What do you think of that? Like when you look at his press secretary, she's like 27, youngest press secretary in the history of the US. You look at his team around him, a lot of women. You look at his attorney general, a female with like, I think it's like 40 years of experience or whatever it may be. What do you guys think of that versus his perception that he's actually a woman hater?
I'm not going to hate on the fact that he employs women. I mean, I think I would have been on the other seat if it was like, he only employs old white guys. I hate that. So I don't think that's the issue. I think everything else he does is the issue, not the fact that he employs women. And women make good face for things. I mean, as like a male, you need a females for certain things. Like for certain law, like stuff, you need a female, then you need a man. So women being in politics makes like 100% sense to me. Like we are rational, good at like making decisions. So it makes sense to me that they are there.
So do you give him props for that?
Do I give him props? No, I will not give him props. Is it a redeeming factor? A little bit. Yes, it is redeeming.
Why do you think he does that though? Do you think he chooses the best person for the job? Or like, what do you think's going on in his mind when he does that? Anyone?
I feel with
I mean,
him,
like,
you just don't know what his intentions are in general. Like, so I don't know.
I mean, for the like Menendez brothers trial, they had a female judge so that it would give off the appearance that, I mean, it's more like victimhood culture and whatnot. But if you are accused of being a woman hater, having an all-female team is a good move. I mean,
Yeah, I think it softens the blow from a political standpoint, to be honest. He's trying to debunk his
Definitely.
own misogyny.
Maybe. I'm just asking your opinions on it. But I mean, that is something that I think he's done very differently compared to people in the past. His intention is something we'd never know, but he still does put a lot of females into position of power. And I think that's a good thing. So not to support him or not support him. It's not about that. It's just asking what your thoughts are on it. I mean, one of the points that it kind of leads us into one of the points I was going to talk about later. And I think it's a very controversial and hot topic now in terms of like affirmative action and employment equity, that kind of thing, BE. The one thing is that, yes, it is holding the country from moving forward economically. We know that's a fact, right? There are labor laws, for example, that hold the country from moving forward rapidly economically. But there are certain things that have to be done. Love to hear from you guys as women. How does the Employment Equity Act and affirmative action affect you guys? Are you for it? Are you against it? And what are your thoughts around it?
I mean, funnily enough, so if you have under 50 people on your team, you don't have to submit like an equity report, but HireSales is doing fantastic. If we did have to submit one, we would be doing great. Overall, like it is positive because it's helping like people with disabilities, Black people, women. The main issue I've heard is like bottlenecking, but honestly, like I understand the repercussions, but the positives of it kind of, for me, outweighed a bit.
So I feel like I can talk to this one quite strongly because like I was literally a stat when it comes to this. So just like a bit of background, I'd obviously working in investment banking for quite some time, got to a point where, if you want to call it bottlenecking or like reach that ceiling, it becomes demotivating, right? Because again, because of the boxes that need to be ticked, you pretty much are quite boxed in when it comes to what your next move is going to be, whether you're willing to put in the work or not. And I was actually in a position which kind of got me to a point of like, I've had enough now, where I'm like, I was actually being mentored for the senior position leading up and up to the point of the post actually being put out there to now go and apply. I got called into a meeting room just to say like, you're wonderful and you'd be a great fit and you have what it takes, but you don't tick certain boxes. And that was extremely demotivating. And now for me, it's like, I could not care like what color you are, like what race you like, what male or female, as long as you can do the work, by all means, take the job. But I think then what frustrated me was an individual that stepped into the role, was not qualified in a lot of the areas, but he ticked the right boxes. And then the rest of the team kind of had to carry the weight. So it wasn't necessarily an individual that could get the job done, but because the right boxes were ticked, they got the job. And nothing against the person, lovely individual, still talk to him like quite often, right? So, no bad blood on that. But I think that's when it becomes tricky. And that's why, when it comes to value-based pay, those type of things are very important to me because in those type of things won't be fixated on that much. So that was the one aspect. Second to that, because working in corporate investment banking, I mean, you get to deal with a lot of people from different ages, different backgrounds, all of that. And I actually had a chat with one of my Black colleagues, and actually she's one of my best friends till this day, lovely individual. And I loved her because we could have these open conversations. And she said to me the one day, she's like, Shanae, how do you feel about this whole BE thing? And I told her, like, if you can get the job done, I honestly could not care. But, you need to be realistic about it. Then I asked her what is her viewpoints on it, from creating jobs and, putting disabled people, women, etc. ahead. And she said to me, you know what? And this was a different perspective. I've never heard anyone say this, but it kind of like opened my eyes a bit. She's like, you need to understand that for us, from like people of color, when we get put into position, it almost feels like you get handed like, they almost look at you as like a bit of a charity case in the sense where, you'll get the job because you tick the race box, but not necessarily because you can get the job done. So some people look at it in the sense of like, I'm also not really getting this job because I am worthy of the position, but just because I take the boxes on those perspectives. So I guess it depends on like how you look at it. But some people do take it as a bit of a slap in the face and that they would rather want to be hired because of the value that they add, being experienced and having enough knowledge above everything else.
Yeah, and I do. I agree with Shanae to an extent there as well, that the act is good in a way that it does open doors for certain individuals. So that is great. However, companies do need to be cautious. As Shanae said, you can't just hire because you're ticking a box, because that's going to be detrimental to your business. You need to hire somebody that's going to fit the profile and fit the skill to be able to do that job, because because at the end of the day, we still got a business to run, you still got a profit to make, and you've still got to sustain. And at the end of the day, if you're also putting somebody in the wrong position, you could set that person up for failure, which could be also
Yeah.
detriment them as an individual. So it's a very cautious thing that needs to be, attention needs to be paid when you're following this act.
Agree, actually. I think diversity and representation actually is such a big thing, and I think it's really important. But at the end of the day, it should always be the most qualified candidate, someone who can back up their qualifications and their experience with a proven track record. I feel like the problem comes in where you're, like Shanae said, you're not being hired because you bring the most value. You're being hired because you look good on paper and you tick the boxes. And I think it takes opportunity away from people who are deserving of that position. I've been in that position before as well, where I was also sat down, similar to Shanae, and said, you know what, you're the one we want to hire, but you don't check a certain like box. And same goes for, woman is included in this act now. There should be a certain amount of female hires, as far as I read. And I don't want to get a job over a man who's more qualified than me. By all means, take that position because you've earned it, you've done it. I want to be hired because I bring the most value against whoever I am standing next to. I don't want to be hired just because I'm a female, just as much as I don't want to be in a position where I am not chosen just because I'm female too. So it's like a little bit of a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons to everything. So I definitely think that that's, yeah.
People like to say that it's almost like you're playing, what is it, with the money game, Monopoly.
Yeah.
The people that aren't applicable to BEE, they had the chance to go around 2 laps. They've already bought property past the beginning. They have their 500. So then we've started the others off, the people who are with BEE. They've only gotten the opportunity now. So then you have to let them get to the point, let them buy the property. So it is frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's just giving them the head start that they never had, in a sense.
One of the keys to being a leader is to have a perception from the other person's point of view. And I think that's something that everyone lacks. No one's perfect in. But from the other point of view, and it's the inversion theory once again, right? Like we speak about that frequently. If you have to invert your point of view, and this is something that you were doing, Shanae, where you took someone's point of view from the other side. How does it feel when there are biases that exist in all of us? The fact that you guys are all employed with us means that I had some sort of bias and bringing you in because you spoke well, or you looked good, or you presented yourself well. There's biases that exist. How else do you tackle the biases of senior management leadership that are from a different generation, are from a different time, without putting in laws that compel them to hire diverse teams?
That's a
Would
really
people
good
pay?
question.
That is a
That's
good
the
question.
thing. If minimum wage wasn't minimum wage, if they weren't legally required to give you that amount of money, they would make it lower. So we need these laws in place so that the standards are upheld. If there weren't the laws in place, I doubt they would do these things because I don't think employers often have their employees' interests in mind.
I think the
Jay, you want to
laws,
add?
like to some degree, it's like it's forcing the hands of the people who don't want to break through, the diversity and people who don't, organizations who don't want to break out of their unconscious bias. The laws push the envelope a little bit. So I think to a degree, it's good because it forces the hands of the companies that don't want to do it, that don't want to give fair opportunity to a diverse amount of people. So I think to a level, it's good. I don't have the experience to know how you do that without laws. So that's not something I know about. So I can't talk about that. I have no idea.
I don't think this is like a one shoe fits all thing. You're going to have like a system wide change to even try and like fix these type of things. Like simple things like we need pay transparency, like more equal paying laws. Again, like putting that stuff on paper, cultural shifts. That's a massive thing. Creating a space where you can actually start to challenge the typical stereotypes. But I don't know if we'll see that in our lifetime. How would you fix the problem, Brandon?
So, I mean, if I had to say, how would I fix the problem? I think that I've actually thought about this many, many times. And when I look at the bias specifically in a country like South Africa, I think that the Employment Equity Act that we have to some degree needs to be enforced. I think the level of which we are at on the Employment Equity Act currently is way too heavy, right? So I think there does need to be enforcement, but I think that I'm more on the side of less rules than more rules because I'm wanting more economic activity. So I'm a business owner. I like economic activity. Whereas another person, this is where perspective comes from, could be looking at it from a different point of view in terms of like they want diversity, they want generational growth, you know? So when I look at myself, I think about me, my family, their growth, generational growth in my current circle. When you have a leader of a country, when you have a political group, I don't support anyone, but I'm saying when you have one, you've got to understand that they look out for the entire country, not just for their family. They're supposed to look out for the entire country, not for their specific lineage, you know? And that's where things get mixed up because they still look out for their generational wealth in their families and they stop looking at the country. And that's where we're at right now, where there's a lot of corruption and things like that. But essentially, the laws are there so that the people that are making the law make the country equal for everyone. I think there are some heavy laws. And if you look at it practically, I'm saying perspective wise, we are still the most unbalanced country in the world. When you look at the informal settlements versus the residential areas, when you look at the pay gaps, when you look at the number of people employed, we are still so heavily, heavily unequal. And that is probably the reason that we cannot see for the changes in the Equity Act from like 2025, where like Nina was saying, you need, if you're over 50 people in your company, you need to like do certain things. There are reasons for their laws. One of them comes back into women. It's not just race. And once again, if it's a male dominated environment and they're compelling them to hire females, it's not because they want them to hire someone that's not the best for the job. They're trying to eliminate the bias. Then it doesn't take, so that first level is the one that's probably going to be a bit shaky. But when that person gets experience and then they hire below them, and when that person then hires below that person, maybe it'll take 10 years, maybe it'll take 20 years, but eventually the goal is to meet that diversity goal with people that are the best for the position. And from personal experience, I do see that shift happening. I worked in the corporate world 10 to 15 years ago or whatever it is, right? It was different. But I look now, when we are placing people or females or people of color, I see how good they are. I know they are the best for the position. But even though, yes, they're ticking the box, they're still the best for the position. I see that shift happening. It's not happening fast enough. But at the same time, it's not happening fast enough because we are the problem, because we hold biases. From that point of view, I think employment equity is a good thing. Affirmative action can be a good thing for not just racial groups, but for male and female, for people with disabilities. I mean, you tell me as a business owner that I need to hire someone with a disability. The first thought in my mind is like, how productive is that person going to be versus another person? And that disability could have no impact on the work, but the thought is in my mind, the bias is in my mind. That's why the government comes in and saying, you need to hire this person with a disability, get that bias out of your head. That's kind of what they're doing with the stick, right? To the level of which they're doing it, I don't agree, but that's the intention behind one. So I don't know if it's good or bad. You know, that's why I say it's all about context, perception. Who knows what is good or bad in this world? Nobody does.
Yeah.
I trust that these laws hopefully would help not just racial groups, but gender gaps, pay gaps, minimum wages. You know, I do believe in what we're doing. I just think it's been implemented ineffectively. But it goes back to what you're saying, Shanae, I think is super, super important. And bringing it back to what we do, because we are in recruitment. So it's very, very relevant to what we do. When I talk to somebody and they say, and I was a sales manager, so I know this, right? They will say, I have a group of male clients. So my ICP is men. I want a female sales rep because they communicate better. Essentially, that is a bias, but that is a reality that we have to deal with. So I don't know if you guys know this, but from my experience and the people that I speak to and statistics, females are more successful as sales reps than men. More females are more successful, and more females are hired in sales roles than men. More females are hired in recruitment than men. So I'm a huge believer in that. And I think that shows that we are on the right path, but the biases will still exist, But yeah. Anyone else wants to add anything before we move on to the next topic?
No, very well put.
Nobody?
I think that summarized very
Yeah, that was
well.
well said.
Yes.
So that kind of brings me into my next point. And does pretty privilege exist? And what do you guys think of it?
Yes,
Yes. Pretty privilege
Yes.
scientifically exists. It's called,
it
well, I
exists.
forgot what it's called, but it's called the halo effect. So it's literally even babies, when presented with an attractive person versus a less attractive counterpart, will choose a more attractive person. And we give people who are more attractive positive attributes in our mind. So if people want to say pretty privilege doesn't exist, go read a textbook, go read a science book. Like, it's literally been proven to be real.
Go read.
It definitely exists. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Is it women's fault? No, but like, yes, pretty privilege does exist.
That
How
can
does
go for
it
men.
impact? Oh yeah, 1,000%. How does it impact people negatively? And how do we get over that? Because that's also a bias that we have to get over.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Look, I've been told, so when I first learned about pretty privilege, I was 20. I had just gotten my first job in corporate. And the manager told me point blank, one of the only reasons I was hired was because I was pretty. And I was like, what? Like that, it also doesn't make you feel great if you do have it, because then you're like, oh, is this why I'm here? You don't want to just be hired just because you're pretty. But I also think it kind of, it does, in a sense, act other people negatively, because then you're robbing them of an opportunity if they're more qualified. So, I think it can be negative on both ends, in my opinion.
See, Jay raised her hand.
Yeah, Jay raised her hand.
Okay, so I love that you said that, because I've been there in my retail days. It was usually a matter of first impressions last, and they match your energy and they're like, okay, we need her. But then I was recently sort of, I'm gonna say, downsized from that whole thing, whereas beauty was the problem. The owner of this company specifically told me he cannot hire me because his wife will mind. And in my defense, I was like, I'm here for the job, I'm not here for you. So that also sort of backlashes you. Like, you get the ugly end of the stick, unfortunately, as women. That's something we face in the workplace as well. And I'm not for it. I just think it's not fair.
It is not right. It is a definite biased thing that's happening in the workplace. And you'll find men will rather hire a prettier lady than not, and it's image. It's a lot about image. And again, if you're the pretty lady knowing you got hired for your looks more than your skills, it's not a good feeling for any woman. And then you also get the women who don't get hired. And if they also put it down to that, it's a little bit of probably about image or about not being the pretty look girl. I mean, that's very demotivating for any person. And they could have the skill and they could outshine any pretty woman. And I've also seen, funny enough, and I don't think it happens often, but you'll also get some females that don't want to hire a pretty woman, even if she's got the
Yeah.
skills. I don't know if
Yeah.
it sometimes could go down to a bit of insecurity. But
Yeah,
I've
for
also
sure.
seen that happen, and then hire somebody who doesn't outshine her maybe, but doesn't have the skill. So I think it kind of works both ways. Very much an image thing, very much possibly an ego thing. I don't know, but it's not right. It shouldn't be like that, but it
Yeah.
happens a lot.
I think that's actually to the negative of women, because it can go both ways, as you said. But how do you think, and how would you want to change that? Do you want to change it? And if you do, how would you think would be the best way to change that?
I
Well, I
mean,
think just hire the
it's not
person for their
just for
skill. End
women.
of story.
Like,
Regardless of what they look like.
Hire the person for the skill is a good point. I think the thing with hiring is
I
that there's
think to a
something,
degree.
and
Oh,
then
sorry.
we would know this. Sorry, I'll just finish this point quickly. So we would know this. The thing with hiring is that we have something called skill, and then we have something called cultural fit. So a person with the most amount of skill may not be the best cultural fit for the company. And that's something that leaders have to weigh up. So yes, skill is a great determining factor, but a massive point is culture. Cultural fit, not culture, but cultural fit to the organization. So once again, how do you weigh that up? And how do you change pretty privilege or do you want to change pretty privilege? That's kind of the question. I don't have the answer to that. But yeah, Nina, you were saying something. I'll let you continue.
Pretty privileged isn't only like directed towards women. I mean, if you were to come here with like just frumpy and stuff, there's a difference between a man wearing a suit and a man wearing just a normal everyday outfit. So that's not pretty privilege. It's
Thanks.
just about the way that you also present yourself to the world.
Yeah.
So like it's important either way. That can't be changed, Sorry, that was not directed at anybody.
But
Yeah,
that is
the only
true.
male in the conversation. It's fine. No, I'm kidding.
That's
It's
very
Women's
true.
Day talk,
No, Nina
You
has a
gotta
point though.
put
It's
down the
also
men.
you have a
But that's
point though.
true.
It's also how you present yourself.
Oh,
I think if you
no, and
present yourself
that's
and you put the effort in, then sure, be hired, But if you're gonna complain that pretty privilege is a thing and this person got hired because they look better, and you're not putting in any effort to look professional, to look the part, to be the part, then you kind of don't really have a place to talk. You kind of have to look inwards and say, I have the skill, let me work on my appearance as well. Look presentable, People take you seriously when you look presentable. It's just a fact,
That's true, because that comes down to the cultural fit thing now. So
Exactly.
corporate, you do need to, and I don't know if I can say this, but you got to go to the interview with a nice hairstyle. You can't go with this whole beach raggedy, and I'm being honest, it really makes a bit of a difference, because if you're going to be seeing clients, you've got to be looking neat. You've got to have the hair, the suit. So you can't go to a corporate interview looking like you've just walked off the beach, and then complain like,
Very true.
they're biased. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
If
it's
you want to be the
important to
part,
draw a line. I think there's an important point there where you got to draw the line between your presentation and thus the representation of yourself to your customers, So there's a line there where it's like, yes, pretty privilege is a thing. I think there are two separate problems. One is hiring somebody because they look good, and the other one is hiring a skill person that will represent the company and present the company in a positive light. I think that's the important thing. And I think for me, when somebody, and this is something that we are advising our candidates to do, look good when you go for the interview. When you come for our interview, you're going to be recorded. Make sure you brush your hair, make sure you dress nicely. And I can tell you there's a marked difference because we assess all the videos. There's a marked difference between somebody going to, like, we're having this conversation, I'm wearing a t-shirt. But if I had to go to an interview, I'm going to wear a collared shirt with a coat because of the perception behind that, because I'm trying to represent myself professionally. You don't have to dress the way you do every day in your interview. It's okay for you to dress up. And it's also better for you to dress up than down, because you don't know the company you're going into. Like, you don't know what their culture is. Maybe, yes, you see them all wearing t-shirts on social media and on LinkedIn, and it's such a cool company. But when you go to that interview, dress up. You don't have to wear a 3-piece suit, but make sure you are business professional, male or female.
Yeah.
I think that's the key to that conversation there. And a lot of companies, when assessing cultural fit, you would rather go up than go down. So like, if a person comes in with a suit and a tie, I've had that in the past, the company does not need that. I would rather tell them, well, you don't have to wear the tie. But if somebody comes in and we wear collared shirts every day and they're wearing a t-shirt, I'm going to be like, are they the person that's going to be like, I don't want to wear a shirt, I want to come in with shorts,
Yeah.
So it's something like that. And we see that very, very often when interviewing people, when we're sending candidates. And a tip to candidates just generally, like, make an effort in an interview, whether it's a virtual interview, whether it's an in-person interview, especially an in-person interview, and it comes back down to presentation as well. Make sure your background's good. Make sure you guys look good. Make sure you sound good. It's all going down to what is the hiring manager's perception of you. And it links back into bias. Yes. I mean, I could be the most amazing employee, but I come in with a t-shirt to the interview and the bias kicks in, like, oh, is this person, as Nina said, frumpy or sloppy? It comes back down to the biases, and they could be the absolute best employee. But biases is something that we have to live with, and we have to understand. That's just the way the world works. That's the way a human works, the human mind works. But I think driving it back into the space of women, I think the problem comes in is that, as we were saying, when somebody is hired because of their look, or not hired because of their looks. And I think that's something that women have to deal with, and it's not fair to you guys. So yeah, I think I'm hoping, once again, we don't have the answers, but I'm hoping that that can change in the future and things improve. And that's going to be a longer term change, because we're talking about like centuries, like basically since the beginning of time, that bias has existed, both sides.
It's interesting because I just thought about this for some reason. It's like white privilege, pretty privilege. It's not about what they give to others, it's what the world, society gives to them. So it's not necessarily your fault that you're pretty or that you can do much about it. Pretty privilege is also, in my mind, for like exceptionally pretty people. Like the rest of us just are, you can be attractive and then people will see you as such. It's not like, so it would have to be like a societal change, not the individual changing.
It's a very good point. I'm gonna bring up our last point for today, and I want to know what you guys think. It's a very controversial thing. I think it's faded away in the past, but it's coming back slowly. And I think from a woman's perspective, for like females listening out there, and for men as well, how do you guys, or what is your opinion on women managing family and work, family and leadership positions? Do you think that it can be done? And then also another question we can talk about is like, how do you guys handle the bias of men saying that women should not be working in leadership positions because they should be raising family?
I got some interesting stats on that.
I'd love to hear it.
I knew it was going to
Bring
come
all the
up.
numbers.
So in a 2025 study by IWG, it showed that a hybrid work was nearly twice as important as parental leave. 64% of women chose to do hybrid work, over 35% who chose parental leave. 56% of women reported hybrid work helped them gain promotions. 71% it positively impacted their career trajectory. 70% said it helped level the playing field. So I think a lot of women are saying that, yes, you can do like a work at home job and also do hybrid work. Like hybrid work has opened like a lot of possibilities to women. So I do definitely think you can juggle the both. And the stats prove it. I mean, women are extremely happy with both. And I think it's
Yeah,
also
if I
people
can
judging
just
women as being incompetent or not being able to. It's a prejudgment that they won't be able to juggle both. But I don't know, just ask them. Most women in my life are juggling several things at the same time, whereas the men are not. I'm not going to make any comparisons.
yeah, but
Multitasking is definitely, I've seen
I
more
can
of a
speak
female trait.
pretty much from experience
Mm.
from my side. So I think the men that say a woman shouldn't be in the leadership role, should be more family orientated, or maybe the men that want their women to be, or their women to be more at home, and maybe that's their dynamic. But I've been in the corporate world for many years, and I've had very big, high leadership roles. On top of that, looking after a family, and I had my son, and I was studying at the time as well through WITS, and it can be done. It really, really can be done. And it's about balancing your time as a woman, and it's really about working smart more than hard. I know that doesn't sound good, but it is really good. It's about still getting the job done, but smartly. But your support structure. So you've got a lot of women who've got a great support structure at home.
Yeah.
And if you've got that good support structure, that's what allowed me to be able to juggle everything and still do it very, really successfully. And I think it definitely can be done. And COVID has also brought a new element now where there is a lot more hybrid, a lot more remote work opportunities that are happening now. And that possibly does make it a bit easier now for women to definitely be in leadership roles in the working world, but still have the flexible time to pay attention to their outside home duties and family. So I think there's a lot more women now who can definitely have the flexibility. But yes, I've done it, and it really can be done.
Well done.
I think it's the beauty of choice. If you want to be a woman that works and wants to juggle it all, you can do that. Versus if you want to be somebody who's like a stay-at-home wife, that's something you can do without judgment. There's cultural differences. There's so many different aspects to this. And I think the whole point of equal rights is that you have the choice to choose what path you want to go into. And it definitely can be done. My mom did it. My aunt does it. She has 2 kids. She's the owner of her business. And she has a great support structure, which is her husband as well, and I think the remote work comes into play and is an advantage for a lot of single moms, particularly, that don't have a good support structure. So I think remote work is important for a lot of individuals, especially women that are juggling literally everything without support. So I think it's the beauty of choice. If you want to be an at-home, stay-at-home mom, you can do that. If you want to be a boss at work, you can do that. I love it. Both is okay.
agree. I think it
Can you
comes
be
down to
both
you,
at the
like,
same time?
damn straight.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Witnessed it,
definitely.
Comes down
experienced
to
it.
what you
Yes,
want,
absolutely.
right? So I think I
Done it.
maybe have a bit of a different like viewpoint on this because like I don't want kids, right? So I've always just been that type. So for me, like I can't really be like, oh, I want that privilege of like if we're talking the privilege word again about like having the flexibility and yada yada yada. I'm still very much like 50-50. Like I actually even had a bit of an argument with someone the other day with something as simple as like, what do we do when the bill comes? I'm old school. I'm like, let's split the bill. Like I work for my money. You work for your money. We can split the bill, right? And I had so much backlash, funny enough, from women where they're like, no, screw that. Man needs to pay. So I'm like, okay, let's take one step back. Do you expect to then get the same salary as a man? Yes, I do. But I'm like, okay, wait, now I'm not understanding the double standards. You want to earn the same, but when it comes to paying, then like now we're doing a 80-20. And we had such an argument. So I think I've got a bit of a different stance when it comes to that. So I think like the whole thing of like the bias around maybe females need to have a little bit more like flexibility and leeway because we naturally take on the mother role and the caring and all of that. Like I think personally to me that probably just doesn't apply because that's not what I want out of life. That's not what, I've been used to. I've also grown up in a home where mom and dad worked all the time. They still do till this day. It was never like, dad, you do 80 and I'll do 20, So I think it also just depends
Yeah.
on those type of things. But yeah, as Nick said, like just having that freedom and flexibility to kind of figure out if you want to be the 80-20 or the 50-50 and not get judged for it at the end of the day, because it's not necessary to say that my opinion is correct over the next one.
Yeah, I agree there with Nikita and Shana. We shouldn't conform to society or feel guilty about which way we want to go. And it's your personal choice. It's also around your dynamics. And as like Shanae said, she doesn't want to have kids. Some others, a woman have got 2 or 3 kids. So it's completely according to where you are at in your life. And you must do what you want to do. It's okay to want to be that working woman in leadership and progress. And it's also okay to want to be the mother that wants to stay at home with her kids. We mustn't feel guilty about either choice or what society dictates. No.
I'm still stuck on the 50-50 part that Shanae was saying. So I completely agree with you 100%. But if it comes down to marriage, just don't do COP.
Just don't what? I didn't hear
Don't
that.
get married COP, community of property, because then
Oh, so at least finance is one of my strong points, so I'll be clever about that.
That's funny.
Everything's a business
you did it.
transaction.
So, I mean, what do you guys, and this is something I want to hear from your perspective, right? What do you say to, and I've been in the rooms where people say this, I've been there. What do you guys say to the person that is a leader in a company saying that I rather hire a male or a man because I know his focus is not going to be split on raising kids or like to the extent that a woman's focus is split? What do you say to those people saying that I can get more productivity from somebody like a man than a woman because of that?
I would tell them to spend more time with their kids. I think the people assume that like
My
men,
concept is coming out here.
I mean, assuming that
That's
men have like no
beautiful.
role in their parenting and that the woman takes like the full brunt of it. Whereas like in modern relationships, since the woman is working as well, and often at times it's also a breadwinner. Like it's crazy to just assume that like the woman takes the full role. Is paternity leave, therefore the man is just as much of risk of being dual-minded as a woman is, just because she gets pregnant for a while, Like they should just be as invested. If he has a family, he's much as risk as being distracted as a woman is.
100%. And that's how it should be. They should be
Yeah.
involved with their family and not just work. It should be that.
Mhm.
So my experience around that is previously I would find that it probably was like that, where the woman took more of a home role and did a lot more. The men just worked. But I found that dynamic has changed recently because I feel somehow men and women are getting very much involved in the home family life with the kids.
Yeah.
So I've had staff members where it's pretty much almost equal now. Sometimes the woman might need a bit of time off for the kids, but the same as the men's. Sometimes I've had male staff that have, had to take time off for some sort of family responsibilities. So I'm finding it's more almost on an equal basis now. I don't feel anymore where I only need to hire men because the women are going to take more time off. It's changing, and both give and invest a lot of time in their jobs at the same time. So they're both also working hard. So I don't feel that that's, I feel it's changing. It's getting more equal between the two.
So I feel like you're more likely to ask that question
Okay.
during the hiring process. Like 9 out of 10 times when it comes to the woman, they always ask the question, are you married? Do you have kids? But with the male, you rarely ask that question. Are you married? Do you have kids? Because in their minds, they already know, okay, she's going to need to take so many months off for maternity. She's going to have to take care of her kids. She might have to go home early on a certain day because she has to cook, all of those small things. But with a man, they don't have any of those questions because, oh no, his wife is doing it. Or if he's not married, his mother's doing it. It's always a woman doing it. So the male's perspective, I just feel like it is a bit unfair. Also, if we're going 50-50 as a man, you can also come home and do the washing and clean and cook. It's not just the lady's job. So if we're doing 50-50, let's split everything. If I'm in labor, like you got to be there with me, hold my hand, you have to be full in. That's the full 50-50.
Don't spit that one.
I don't know. I just feel like if you want to say 50-50,
Do you think that's the best for society, though?
no, I don't.
So I've always come back to kind of my Christianity part of things, that a woman was designed more feminine and more nurturing, and a man was designed for protection
And
for
work.
being the provider, and that's kind of how we are designed, and that's how it should be. But I think maybe because of economy, maybe because of the way life is going, I don't think anymore it can be fully like that, purely because both parents need to work nowadays. It's in my mind. I think male and female, mother, father, need to both bring in an income to kind of really be where they want to be in life. Back in the day, dad could work, mom could be more nurturing at home. I just think now the way the world is, or the way things are so expensive, it's almost like 50-50. But we all take it too far, as we do, where now we are taking it too far more now. It's not just we both work. Yes, you work a bit more as a man, me less as a lady, but we work. But now we want to all move into that equality thing. Some women want to take it a bit too far, but then it kind of oversteps boundaries. And I think it also then causes a little bit of friction within any type of home or relationship. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
It's
Fair.
it's difficult. I mean, one thing I'm thinking of is like people wanting a traditional woman, but women aren't traditional anymore in the sense of how they were in the olden days because you're working, so therefore you're not traditional. Like men should be able to cook for themselves, like do things themselves. So it's like, is it better for society? No, not really, because it just means that more people are getting taxed. But like women
That's
being able to
exactly
work
what
is
it
good.
comes down to. It comes down to the architects of society wanting more of a workforce, wanting more um, tax, more money, more people, and it comes down to that. And that is actually was the architecture of feminism to rise up. And I think for me, choice is a big thing. So you choose what you want to do. But once
Exactly.
again, it comes down to, do you want to hire a male or a female? Do you want to hire a black or a white person or an Indian person or a colored person? Do you want to hire a person with a disability or not? It's all biases, right? And it's just your perception of stuff, but from when you look at it, you have to enforce laws to say that you have to do this, right? But when you're looking at what's best for society, it's always nice to think of that perspective. And are there still gender roles that people have to play? Does gender matter? Do men have a role that they have to play, and do women have a role they have to play to have the best family unit, to have the best society as a whole? Those are questions. Those are not questions. Those are actually facts, So when you look at the last 2,000 years, it's only in the last 100 years that this is on a rise. And you look at the negative impacts to society from it, maybe not being felt with people we know, but the percentage increases in a whole bunch of things linked back to we are not doing the best for what is best for society as a whole. So that's my opinion. Come back to choice, and I'll never say that you have to do this or you have to do that. But it comes down to if you're looking at what's best for society, whether it's racial, gender, whatever it is, what is best for society, what is best for the home unit. And you can't deny the facts around that. I mean, it's very rare you can say that somebody really, really, really loves it happens, but they really love what they do. But if they had all the money in the world, would they work or would they stay with their families? That's the question. That's the question. Would you do what you love? Like if you love something, like for example, you love to cook or you love to draw or do art, would you do that or would you work? So it's all about choice, but at the end of the day, society is designed to push you into something so that not society, but like the people in charge designed it so that they could benefit from it, but our families suffer. So that's my perspective.
I
That's
have
your
a
opinion
question
on what
for
I said,
you.
but like, yes.
So there's Women's Day, but there's no Man's Day. Why do you think that is, and how does that make you feel?
Who?
I don't care about it. Like, I mean, I don't care about having a Men's Day. I think what the day is addressing is the inequality of the past. The same way we have Freedom Day, the same way we have Youth Day, there was inequalities in the past that are being remembered. And that's what Women's Day is for. It's not to highlight the woman, it's to highlight the inequalities of the past. Men generally did not have inequalities of the past, and that's why we don't have a Men's Day.
Would you like
A
a Man's
really
Day?
good answer.
Thank you.
I again
Yeah,
think
Would
it's
I like a Men's
unfair
Day?
that there's a
No.
Women's Day and not a Man's Day.
Every day is
Well, I
man's
also
day.
think that a man should always pay the bill when he goes out with anyone, not just romantically, but anyone, any female. I'm just very what's the word again? Chivalrous. I'm a very
Chivalrous, yeah.
chivalrous person.
That's what I said.
That means that when there's a female around, yeah, sorry, your volume is low and I didn't hear you. But yeah, so I'm just off the belief, and that's just my core beliefs. The same way, I mean, people have cultural beliefs. My belief is that you should do that. And all of you guys know that if you ever went out with me, you've never paid, not because I'm the owner of the company, but because that can be anyone. If I go for a meeting with somebody and they invited me to the meeting and they're female, I still wouldn't let them pay. Not because I think they're any less. I just think that's one of my core beliefs. That's payment. And then the other thing is like just being over, like, I feel like a female is supposed to be more sensitive. And, it's like is once again comes back to your gender roles. So whoever it may be at any point of the time, I'm more chivalrous as long as they're a female. If they're a man, once again, even if it's like a male, I'll offer to pay, but I'm more equal to like, hey, 50-50 because you want to feel like a man. Okay, cool. But I mean, like when it comes down to a male or female kind of thing, 50-50 does not exist in my mind. It's 100-0 because you have 100% of your roles. I have 100% of my roles. You do yours to your best of ability. I'll do mine to the best of my ability because we're not designed the same. We're designed different, but we're equally important.
I like that. When we've got time, I think I'm going to send my husband your way, Brandon, for a coffee and a chat. Just saying.
I'm also not against like doing, like, once again, if you come back to chivalry, it doesn't mean that I'm never going to wash a dish or I'm never going to cook. I love to cook. I can do dishes. I can do laundry. I'm fully functional human being. But at the same time, do I think that is the best use of my time? No. So I can do it. I will do it if you need it. But do you think it's the best use of my time? No. Do I think it's the best use of your time? No. That's why we have dishwashers. But once again, the man has to make enough money to do it. I also think which is a very important point before we go. I also think that's societal norm in the fact that two people need to work in a household has made men lazy and took away the ambition from a man. Because yes, there are many ways men can provide for their home. They choose not to. They choose to work 6 hours a day or 5 hours a day rather than 12 to 16 hours a day. And the men that I surround myself with, millionaires and billionaires, none of their wives work. They only do what they love. And all of the men work 12 plus hours a day, including myself. So when you look at it from that point of view, men have been allowed to become lazy because of your work, because of you guys. And who suffers? The family unit, and society therefore suffers. So I think it's just given a license for men to be lazy and do nothing with their lives. And the majority of the men
down.
are that way.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with that one.
Silence.
No, but I agree with that completely. We
You know what I
definitely
mean,
say,
what's the-
Brandon?
what-
very this part.
I get a lot of backlash for this, but like I stick by it. I also say that if men were still forced to go to the army, like my dad and these friends and all of that did, we would also have a very different caliber of men today.
True.
Mm.
1000%.
I wouldn't want to go
completely
to the
agree with
army
that.
because I'm not designed for that. I'm not designed for that. But
I
I'll
think
contribute in
anyone
other
grew
ways
up
to
saying
society.
I'm for the army, but I mean,
But
it's just
I'll be honest with
so
you. If someone
right.
sent me to the army for 2 years after school, I'd be so much further ahead in my life because I would have been taught
Yeah.
discipline. I was taught discipline too
Yeah.
late in life, and men are not taught discipline. They just don't become disciplined.
Yeah.
But the quicker you learn discipline, whether it's through the army, through school, the more successful you'll be in your life because discipline is core to success.
That's
Yeah.
so true. Yep, correct.
Anyway,
Moral of the
I'm going
story,
to
let's
round up.
send
So I'm
men
gonna,
back to war.
Let's have
Well,
no wars.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
I watched the. Have you guys heard of the Whatever podcast?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No. Okay, well, they always ask this question when a woman says that they're equal to a man. They were like, if somebody breaks into your house and he's a male with a knife, are you going to jump out of the bed and defend yourself, or is
Definitely
your
tap out
husband
with a
or...
gun.
it's a 50-50.
No, not with a
Depends on what
gun. I
side
mean,
of the bed you're on.
physically,
It's
like,
50-50.
If the attack is on
We
my
all
husband's
we
side
all
of
They
the
always
bed,
have to
contribute.
all contribute. But the man generally will jump up first and protect the woman next to him. That is the role, unless he's a terrible person. But I mean, like, generally, he would be like, stand behind me, I'll go first, and then if I need your help, I'll call you. But like, that's generally the role, and that's where like the call comes down to. We have different roles. The woman will run to the kids while the man defends the home. And that's what they always use that to say, but we're not equal. We're equal, but we have different roles. So that's I love that. It's a very silly podcast. Don't ever watch it. It's a waste of time, but it's fun. I'm going to round up though to give a quick message to the women of South Africa, whoever's listening, from your perspective and your point of view. So I'll let you guys.
Go first. This is one I live by. Their opinions don't pay your bills, so don't hold back.
You are the master of your own destiny. So always choose you and make the choice about you, not about everybody else.
I would say adversity builds character. So just because you're facing the obstacles we're facing does not mean we're not resilient and strong and capable of balancing everything. We're more than capable.
I don't have a quote, but I wish all the women of South Africa good luck in their career journeys. And you are more than accepted in the workforce and to be a professional.
And you, Brandon?
Okay. To the women of South Africa out there, I think from my point of view, you're a key part to society. You're a key part to the world. You're a key part to this company. And I think that each one of you are valuable and should be loved and should be cared for. I wish all the women everything of the best.
Thank you, Brandon.